again. I've added one more thing to the happy cycling, which is to make one track out of phase so that you can play a Steve Reich piano phase type of composition. I did this by letting you manually decouple track 2 from sync with Ableton's clock, so you can do it at will and then put it right back on the clock by clicking the little X and off switch under phase. If you hear an interesting passage during the phasing, you can type the tempo that Ableton is at and it will freeze the passage and continue playing that when you like, and it'll stay with that one until you either lower or raise the tempo again and get it phasing again. The song by Steve Reich, Piano Phase, is 12 steps, which means it's no problem for happy cycling. The tracks can be from 1 to 16 steps. The tracks will start out synchronous and then go out of phase, creating some interesting patterns. So when it's totally asynchronous, it sounds like a cascade. And when the notes align on the way back to synchronicity, it sounds like a different melody. And it's really cool to watch this happen on the happy cycling because you can see the chasing lights indicating how far apart the two phases are and when it will come back around to synchronicity. And the way I do it here is different than most people do it. They usually use 2 tracks or 2 instruments, but because the happy cycling has 4 streams of notes that all run to the same VST simultaneously, I'm able to do it all on one track in Ableton. I'm going to do a tutorial on how to do this step by step. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the number of steps in the 2 sequences here to 12. I think I'm going to change this heading here to number of steps rather than number of notes in the final version. So I've got 2 12-step sequences. Now it's very easy to put the notes in these boxes. I'm just going to take my external keyboard, and if the track that the happy cycling is on has record enabled, which this does, all I got to do over here in this note entry column is click on these 2 buttons and I can enter both sequences at one time. So start looking here in these boxes and I'll put in the notes of Steve Reich's piano phase. That should be it. So if I turn this on, let's see what happens. Yep, so I'll turn off note entry. Not using that anymore. There's a lot of things here we could do to spice up the original, of course. We could add the octave jumps, so let's do that for a second. So that one there with every 5th note, an octave jump, was really cool because it was hitting a different note every time around. I've also found that if you run both of these sequences and run one in reverse, it sounds quite interesting too. So yeah, they're both currently perfectly aligned. And I'm going to run the second one in reverse. And now I'm going to start phasing it down. You get good, nice, interesting patterns with that you didn't get with them both running in the forward direction. So you have the phasing with one of the ones in reverse, then adding the octave jump and maybe some random direction or stuff like that. You could really get some interesting patterns going and then lock those in. You can also record them in MIDI. So if you have an interesting little loop that you like there, you'd be able to record that in MIDI. Believe it or not, this is the same Steve Reich sequence, but I have engaged the accumulation decumulation feature, this pink row right here, only on the C notes. So the C notes are descending one semitone per time around. Gives it a totally different sound. And then I've engaged some octave jumps in there as well. And muted a couple of the notes, the ones you see that are red, kind of changing the pattern just a little. And the main way it's activated is with this little X right here where it says phase. It's referring to this second row here. And it's that little X. Turn that off. And then the happy cycling is going to work like it normally does with kind of like the Tip Top Trigger Riot or Lambda Polypulse where you just have a certain number of pulses that are entering the sequencer. So you can get the happy cycling over on my Patreon. Hope to see you over there where we can discuss all things synth and all the new things that are coming out. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for all. And I'll see you in the next video.